Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session where we are going to be talking about documenting and breaking down work in spreadsheets. I hope you're excited because I am, so let's get right into it. So by the time we are done today, you should be able to do these 5 things very well, the 5 things you have on your screen. You should be able to understand why we document product work in spreadsheets and when to actually do that. You should also know how to structure your spreadsheets so your stories and your tasks and every other links that you have can make sense to the rest of your team. And then you should also be able to learn how to break down a user story into clear small tasks, not just for your devs, but for the design and other aspects of your team as well. And then you should be able to communicate these requirements in a way that leaves no room for confusion. And finally, you should be able to track each work properly. You should be able to track it based on progress, based on to-do, and so on. We're going to walk through some real examples, and we're also going to build one spreadsheet together by the end so that you'll be able to, do it yourself after now. All right, so let's talk about why we even bother with spreadsheets, right? It's not easy to understand, but then we shouldn't also underestimate it, especially when we've been hearing so much about a lot of fancy product management tools. But the truth is, spreadsheets are underrated in product management. And here's why I'm saying that. As a product manager, spreadsheets are your first workspace. When you're just starting out, or even when you're already advanced, right, in product management, spreadsheets give you room to be able to think. They give you a blank canvas to organize your thoughts, to map out your work, and to also communicate that work with your team without any tool overhead or complexity. Now, let me paint the picture. Imagine you're working on a simple feature on an app. Maybe you want to implement, say, the since we're using our money transfer, say you want to implement the send money internationally feature for our money transfer app, and you're still trying to clarify how it should work or how it shouldn't work. You maybe at some point you haven't spoken to the design team or the dev team just yet. You don't even know the full edge cases of that particular feature. And you just need somewhere to start gathering your thoughts and even, trying to layer things clearly, right? You open your Google Sheets. You start with, one column for the user story and so on. Before you know it, you've built your own custom tax tracker and everyone can see it. You can update it and people can comment on it too as well. Now, you didn't just need to go set up, some fancy tool like maybe Trello or Jira and the rest of them. That's the beauty of spreadsheets. You can do whatever it is you want to do on the spreadsheets without feeling like you're not doing something right. Spreadsheets are very flexible. You can adjust the headers, you can adjust the formats, use filters, highlight urgent tasks and so on. For those of us that already have an idea of how spreadsheets works, this is not going to sound very foreign to you. And you're not stuck with using a particular template rather. That's another beautiful thing about spreadsheets. And when you're working with some cross-functional people like designers, engineers, and marketing, it helps to have one central place that's clear and easy for people to follow. Right now, let's talk about another reason why they are very useful. Another reason why spreadsheets are very useful is because of visibility. When you're new on a team or even managing a junior squad, a spreadsheet lets everyone see the big picture, without having to go learn a new tool. Not everyone knows how Jira or Trello works. Those are product management tools. But everyone can read a Google Sheet. It's accessible, it's immediate, and it's also very clear. And you don't get to hide behind things like automation or templates, right? You're just dishing out your thoughts on the spreadsheet, and that makes it a very powerful tool for you. And yes, as things get bigger, as your team scales, you eventually move some of that work into tools, right? Into tools like Jira and the rest. And that is fine. But even then, right? Even then, your spreadsheet becomes like your product management tool space. It's where your ideas, still get fleshed out. It's where you can get your features to be sprint ready, and that makes it an essential part of your, workflow. Because even if you're using all of these fancy tools, you still need your spreadsheet. Now, I want to say this very clearly. You're not using spreadsheets just because you don't know how to use other tools, no, or you shouldn't use other tools, no. You're using them because they help you think clearly without the fear of saying, oh, I'm not following the templates very well, or I'm not following the format very well. And that's what good product managers do, and that is where they start from. They organize ambiguity, right, into something the team can act on. And spreadsheets are, perfect for that. Now, because it's not just about using a spreadsheet, but more about using it very well, the way you structure it matters a lot. What you include and what you leave out can completely change how your team gets to move or gets to work on a project. So let's take a moment to break down each section you need in your product spreadsheet. Now, these aren't just, columns or spaces, right? They are how you tell your team, hey, this is what's happening. This is why we should do it this way. And this is what we are going to be doing next. Let's start with the user story or task title. This is the name of the work item, right? The work item, it is short, it is clear, but with just enough meaning to give people an understanding. Now, you're not writing a novel here. You're not trying to write a novel here. You're trying to give your team a handle to grab onto. So instead of something vague like design screen in quotes, or say send money in quotes, you should write something that at one glance, everyone knows what it's about. And then next we have description or acceptance criteria. If we remember vividly, we already talked about these things. Now this is where you try to get some specifics out, right? This is where you say, what does success look like? What are the exact details that can tell the designer or the developer, or tell everyone basically that this task is complete or we are done with this particular feature, right? You're not trying to put out some bullet points, right? You're trying to put out things that are going to help your team members work very clearly. And then the next we have priority. Now, priority is not enough to know what's in the spreadsheet. You need to know what matters most right now. This column tells your team where to focus. But here's the trick, right? You can't just label everything high priority. That defeats the point. You need to be able to differentiate them. You need to be honest with the level of urgency, and you need to also be honest with your level of impact. And of course, don't be afraid to change something changes. Now because that is real product management, things always get to change, right? Now you have the owner column. This one is very simple, but it's also very important. The owner column simply means who is driving this task, who is responsible for pushing it forward. Notice I didn't say who is doing all the work, because ownership doesn't always mean execution. It means there is somebody that is accountable, right, for this particular task. If a task is floating in the air with no particular owner, that means it's going nowhere. So make sure every task in your spreadsheet has a name next to it. And then comes status, where things stand. Are we starting it? Is it in progress? Is it blocked? Is it done? And all of that. Now, this helps you spot problems before they become, worse. You can use drop downs here. When we get to the point where we are doing putting these things into the sheet, you're going to see what I mean by drop downs. Now you could say something like not started, in progress, blocked, ready for this or ready for that. And always remember to keep it very simple, but also consistent. And then we have dependencies. This one is often overlooked, but it is sometimes a lifesaver. If this task relies on something else being finished, please write it down. Maybe design cannot begin until we are done with research, or maybe development is waiting for an API. You should be able to pen these things down so that people get to know that, oh, I'm not starting this one just yet because design is not ready, right? Because when a task stalls, you don't know why. 9 times out of 10, it is hidden in some of these dependencies, and you need to be very certain about your dependencies. Now we have notes or comments. This is your flexible space, right? Use it for context, use it for feedback, small updates, and other clarities you might want to give to the designer or the developer, not just a place where you give them vague tasks, right? If someone had a conversation with a stakeholder that changed something, drop it in this your comment session, right? It's more like your working memory. And then we have links. Now, please do not underestimate this, right? Every time someone has to DM you and say, hey, where's the Figma file? Or can you resend this document and so on? It means you have lost time. Put the links in here, right? Straight to Figma, straight to Notion or whatever, your PRD, your user stories, it should be in this part where you have links, right? The column where you have links so that people can access it easily. Or even if it's a Loom video, whatever helps someone get context of their tasks faster, you need to be able to put in a place that is easily accessible. And lastly, we have timeline, or you can call it ETA. Now, be very careful here, right? Because at this point, you might be tempted to just dish out deadlines, right? Rock solid deadlines, but that's not what you're doing here. Over here, you're trying to give a rough idea of when this might get done. It helps with, your planning. It helps manage expectation, but only use it when you're confident or after discussing with your team. Not do some guesswork, right? Guessing is going to make you either burn people out or burn their trust out. Your spreadsheet isn't, about tracking every second, no, but it's about creating clarity for your team. It's more of your way of saying, here's what we know, here's what we are doing, and here's what's next. And when your spreadsheet is structured right, it becomes the single source of truth for your team. People stop guessing. They stop messaging you every 20 minutes or every 10 minutes. And they stop asking you questions that are already answered because they have access to the answer. And guess what? When this spreadsheet is well maintained, you can export it into your product management tool, either Trello, Jira, whatever it is that you're using, right? You just export it and you've already done the whole hard work. When you now get to your tools, you do not have to do as much, right? All you have to do is just organize them properly. This one simple spreadsheet that you have is a huge part of your PM toolkit, right? I call it a huge part of the PM toolkit. Use it with good intentions and it will work for you. So moving on, I want you to think back to our previous classes. Remember how we broke down the money transfer feature into epics and user stories, right? Remember how it took, that large goal that we had, enable user to send money, and turned it into, specific stories like add a recipient, enter an amount, review transaction, receive success messages, and so on. Now that about to document. but not in, a product management tool, not just yet, but we're going to be doing it in a spreadsheet. And here's why. When you are early in project or working with multiple moving parts, a spreadsheet keeps things flexible, like I have mentioned, and it keeps it collaborative. So how do we start? First, you write each user story clearly in plain English, like I said. You're not trying to be clever here. You're trying to be clear. So forget all the long sentences and just make it very simple. Forget long-winded talks. Use the format I always preach about. As a user, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. That is very clear. For example, as a registered user, I want to add a new recipient so that I can easily send them money in the future. That's your title, right? That's your role in the spreadsheet. Now let me try to expand it with the details and some sort matters. Right next to that title in another column, you write the acceptance criteria. Don't worry, I'm going to put this out for us to see shortly. What needs to be true for these tasks to be considered done? For the recipient example, it might look like user can input name, bank, and account number. And then you have system validates account number format, save recipient, right? Button appears only when the form is completed and so on. Now, confirmation message is also shown after savings. You basically do not need to overthink this. Just write out what the team needs to build and test the story properly. Think of it like giving someone a checklist. If they tick everything off, the job is done. Now, in your spreadsheet, you also need to include priority. You also need to include the owner. We've talked about that, the status, timeline. You can add these columns. It's up to you how you want to add it. And please do not forget the links, like I mentioned. And the link could be maybe a wireframe in Figma or a deeper description of the PRD and so on. Because this creates a one-stop place where your team can get everything they need. Nobody has time to be bouncing between 5 tools just to understand the task. You need to give them everything in one place. Now, sometimes a single story touches multiple teams. For example, add a new recipient might require a design update to add the recipient screen. It might require back-end changes to store the recipient in database. And the QA to test, right? They need to test saving, editing, and deleting a recipient. Do you make all these in separate rows in your sheet? Well, you can, or you can list the main user story and then create subtasks underneath it, right? Or you link them. It's up to you. The key is that every part of the work is still very much visible and everybody is aligned and they are able to track this. I hope I'm making sense. Please give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can still hear me. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so now one more thing, let me be honest. If you do this well, right, your spreadsheet is going to become more like your mirror for your team and the way they think. When someone looks at your spreadsheet, they should understand what the user wants, why it matters, and what's being done about it, who is doing what, and at what stage or level everybody is, right? That is the benefit of using a spreadsheet. Now, imagine you're documenting this story. The story is titled, as a user, I want to view my transaction history so that I can track my expenses. That is the title. Then you have the acceptance criteria that says, display a list of previous transactions sorted by date. Show transaction amounts, recipient status, include filter for date and statuses, allow user to click and view transaction detail. Now you come to your priority. Your priority at this point would be high, and then you give the owner a name. Let's say the owner's name is progress, right? And then you put the status in progress. Now you also add your timeline, end of sprint 3. Remember, you have your sprints already. So you decide where you're going to add this particular sprint. Are you adding it at the beginning, or are you adding it at the end of sprint 2 or 3? And also your link to various documents. Now, once this is documented, anyone, even someone who is just joining the team, can read that one row and get the whole picture, right, of what you're trying to do without going back and forth to ask for clarity. And that's what we are going for. The crux of the matter is that you don't get to wait until you have a tool to be organized as a product manager. If you can't manage a spreadsheet, you won't be able to manage one of those product management tools either. Also, note that spreadsheets are not just for tracking, they are for thinking, like I mentioned earlier. They force you to kind of slow down, to structure all the scattered things you have, and to clarify what you're actually building and why you're building what you're building. All right. Breaking down user stories into design and development tasks. Now it's time to move from, we've been talking about the what, so let's move on to the how, right? And this is where real product management starts to, come to life, because you're not just trying to manage ideas anymore. You're now managing execution. Let me explain this clearly. A user story is not a task. It's the container of a task, right? It is the goal. It is the aim. Now, the outcome we want to achieve, but if you stop at the story, you're asking your team to figure out the rest on their own, and that is very risky. Your job as a PM is to help them break it down into tasks, into clearer tasks, assignable tasks, and that can be executed across design, development, research, testing, and lots more. Now, let's use the story mentioned a transaction history so that I can track my expenses. If this story lives in your spreadsheet and you're about to build it, the next thing you do is to ask, what needs to happen for this story to come to life, right? From here, you break it down. And here's how you break it down. Step one, look at it from all angles, right? Not just from the development angle or from the design angle. This story needs more than just codes to function. You need UI design for transaction history screen. Maybe you need research if you want to understand how users think about tracking their expenses. And then you need backend to, fetch transactions from a database. And then you need front end to display them. Of course, your testers to make sure that, filters and sorting and other things are actually working. And possibly content writing if there's, explanatory text or error messages. We're not talking about one tax anymore. We're not talking about a bundle of other tax. So you see how that particular story has now gone into diverse parts. So today I'm not going to talk very much. I'm just going to show us how to do this, right? It's time to move and actually see how it's done. I know we all love our fancy tools, but sometimes that can beat a simple spreadsheet, especially when your team is still growing, or if you're working with people from different departments who are, some of them are old school and they are a little hesitant on learning a new tool, right? So here's what we do in this kind of situation. You'll be managing your work from a spreadsheet, so that you're not trying to overwhelm your team and you're not trying to confuse them either. So we're going to be using a Google Sheet to manage our user stories. I'm going to stop sharing now and reshare a spreadsheet. Okay. So let me know when you can see a spreadsheet. Stop. Okay, so we are going to update this spreadsheet you're seeing on your screen right now. everything I have said, we're going to put it to work. We are going to do is to have the issues, right? I'm just going to title this issues. Please, I need us to pay attention to how I am organizing my sheets, how I am labeling each of them, and how I am arranging them, right? So that you can learn how to. Some of us gave me signs and wonders during our lesson. So please pay attention to what I'm going to be doing here. So we are starting with issues, right? Good. And then we have the next one we have. Now the first thing I want in that sheet is the actual task or user need, which is the issue, right? We have prepared that. Now I'm not asking some developer jargons, rather I'm going to put in something very simple and something very basic, right? Which is okay, let's just have it. The next one is stage. After the stage, we're going to impute the stories, the issues rather. So we have stage and then we have assignee. We have assignee. Yeah. We have task priority, right? Rename it to priority. Okay, so now there are different stages of how you are going to arrange your issues. Okay, and this first stage here is going to be for user registration and login. Okay. And login. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, this is user registration and login. If you can't hear me anymore, please do well to call my attention. So, all right, guys, give me a sec. Let's merge these guys together. So please take note of this. I want to merge these four cells together. What I do is come here, can merge them, and then I'll have to centralize my text. So that said, if I'm this bold and increase the size. Okay, so that's done. This is the first, segment. Now we're going to go ahead and add up our issues. And the first issue under user registration would be user can register, right? That's and now user can register to do. Then the stage of this is, now let's impute the stages, right? What we are going to do is we are going to come to our insert and then insert a drop down. Now let's customize this drop down that we have inserted. We are going to, the first option there, we have web design. In the second, of front end. Sorry. And you can add another item if you have more than two, and the next one will be mobile design, right? Then another one, maybe back end. For QA, QC. So now, for that, you can see, columns right here. Work to this, or just play around with colors. Go back to this. Okay, let's see, let's do this. Right? So now this is your drop down. And then you to click done. Now you can see that over here you now have a drop down. So what you do is this user can register. Maybe this is for the web. Now we are going to add another drop down to this. So what you can do, let me redo this, right? You click here, right? So that it highlights the entire row. And then let me do that here. And then you can come and insert your drop down. Comment here, then lights down to a point like this, and then come here and insert your drop down. See, now you have drop downs, and then you can come back here and customize that drop down. So this assignee is where we are going to have the names of the people that are going to work on each of these issues. Now your user stories are now issues, right? So these are the people that are going to work on these issues. So let's start. Say the first name, let's use choose names of people on this call. Well, who do I have here? Okay, let's say for web design, we have Ijoma. We have Ijoma. Then for the next one, which is front end, we'll have Olua. Just following to the names on my list. We have Olua Shegun. And then we have Chinonso. I hope I got that. Chukwemeka. Last one, let's have who else? Let's have Neka. Let's have Neka. Good. So you can also remember customize the lesson markers for QAQC. Neka is QAQC. So mobile. What color do we use for mobile? And then we have this. Okay, that's one. This is for this. This is for. I got my question right. So done. Now you have those drop downs. So for user can register web design, it belongs to Ijoma. I hope we're seeing that. And now the priority here, we're going to do the same thing that we did. Now, another way to do this could be that you can come here, right? And then highlight it. Highlight it and just copy to this other side, right? But note that as you're copying, it's going to copy everything you have here. So you're going to come here to customize it. Now you are going to click on this edit button, right? And you're going to change the things you have here. So we change the names to, remember this is the priority aspect. So we are going to have high priority. We are going to have urgent. We are going to have which other one? Let's say low priority. Low. We are going to have. Is there any other one below? Let's have basic, right? And that will be all. So now you click done, it's going to pop up a question, apply to all, right? Now what you will do is apply to just this instance, right? You have applied to just that instance. What you can now do is come to this instance that you've applied that to and drag it down to apply to every other instance. So now if you click on this, you're seeing the priority buttons, right? And over here, you're still seeing the names. Did you guys get that? Give me a thumbs up if you're following me. Okay, Laila. Chukwemeka. Jama, all right. Very good. I'm glad we are all following. So let's impute the priority for this, which is high. Okay. Now, the interesting part of this is that we can now duplicate this. Remember, we have like how many stages here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. So what you do is duplicate this into extra 4 places, right? User can register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you come to the stages, drag this down so that it enters everywhere. So now you change it. This is for front end, this is for mobile, this is for back end, and this is for QAQC. I hope that makes sense to you and you understand. Good. So now you change the assignee, right? Accordingly. Not change such a so you change the priority accordingly. So if you want it to be a bit more colorful, you can switch colors, right? You don't have to use the same colors. Oh, I think we missed one here. So we're just going to reuse this. So this is it. And now let me just move straight to another segment and show us how to do a segment, right? So over here, you want to do this, click here and delete this row, right? Maybe 2, so that it fits into what we want to do. Now you highlight both of these guys. All of them. And then you merge them. You can come here and copy this and come here and paste it and rename it to, now we are done with registration and login. The next one should be, let's say, user profile management. Okay, so this is basically just to give us, segments of everything that we are doing and to help us arrange our sheets properly. So we're going to do the same thing here. The first issue in user profile management would be, let's say user can upload or update profile information, right? That is the first issue. Oh, this is very tiny. Maybe 12. And then you're going to do the same here by dragging it down into how many? 5, right? And then you change it accordingly. You change it accordingly. And just switch things up. Change it accordingly. Come here and impute the rest. I hope I am making sense. Can you guys still hear me? All right, so you do that and so on and so on. So on and so on until you are, until you are done. I'm not going to continue to leave us here. Finish up the rest ourselves. So now I want to show you one other thing that you can do to keep your sheet neat. And that is, for instance, let's say your last tax, right? You had to put in so much information here. So what you do in cases like that, you come here and then you wrap your text. You wrap it so that all the information you have can, show up without breaking inside, right? It can still show up here. That is another way to keep your sheet tidy and organized. So I have said a lot. I'm just going to leave us to ask our questions now. Do we have any question? I'm pretty sure we do. So this is time for questions. You know how we do it. You have to raise your hand and then you'll be called. Who wants to go first? You guys don't have questions. You understand everything I have said? Okay, Ijoma, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to know what shortcuts you use to wrap the roles where you have user profile management.
Sorry, say that again.
You deleted rows 8 and 9, then you
Okay.
highlighted all of them.
Okay.
To make it bigger. How did you achieve that? That's what I want to know.
Okay, I used the merge feature. What I did was, let me try to do that again. You can still see my screen, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let's say you want to merge these 3 cells, right? You highlight them, and then you come here where you have merge cells. You click on it, and then you merge it. And you can type in it. And then when you type, maybe let's just say you type something good. Get them, right? it centralizes. You can also either
Okay.
make it left aligned
Okay.
or right
All right.
aligned, depending on how you want to arrange. And then if when you do this, it doesn't centralize, come here and check your setting where you have this vertical alignment. Because sometimes it
Okay.
could be like this, or sometimes it could be like this. And you don't want that. So this is what you want.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, who is that? Uche, you could go ahead.
Oh, hi. So I just need clarity on the, please can you scroll up a bit? After issues, there's stages. Yeah, so I don't know, sorry, stage. Is there any reason why there's assigned, there's priority, right? That's clear. But for this stage, is there any reason why you use stage here? For me, I just need clarity. It's a little bit confusing for me.
You need clarity on what, sorry?
Like the stage, like the title there is stage, right? Assignee, I understand it.
Yeah.
Priority, I understand it. Issues, I understand. But stage, I just need clarity why, like if you can explain more why you use stage, like as the title there.
Okay, so that's just the terminology. The stage here just
Okay.
signifies web design stage, front end stage, mobile design stage, back end stage, and so on. So it's just the terminology we use.
Oh, okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yes. Any other question? I was expecting a lot of any other hand raised. Okay, then. I'd assume we don't have any other question, but if you have any question, you can always reach out to me on this. I'm just going to stop here for today and let's do a bit of hands-on. You can create a sheet and try to replicate what I just did, right, in preparation for your next task. So I am going to stop the recording now. Okay.